Small drops of water make an ocean. Just like that, if you can accomplish small successes, it will turn into something bigger and better. Small drops of water make an ocean. Just like that, if you can accomplish small successes, it will turn into something bigger and better.
Well, a beautiful Wednesday morning, the 7th day of July. I'm happy to have you this morning as I take you through, and we hope for a great day. It is my belief that you've had an incredible night as we look forward to that beautiful day. My name is Linda Alela. This is Morning Cafe, that morning program on TV 47 that makes sure that your day kicks start on a very, very good note, informed note, educated note or something, but yes, you are educated in a way, but importantly, you're entertained, and therefore we are here for nothing more than that or nothing less than that. So make sure that you keep it right here as we kickstart the broadcast. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela. TV 47K is how you get to be part and parcel of the conversation. You can watch us stream live, whether you're headed to the office right now. You need not to miss out on this important session. You can as well, drop your comments. We sample them as we continue. Today we have very candid topics that we'll be touching on. We look at the politics of wits, the aspect of corruption, the conversation that is here politically in the country. This as key leaders are throwing jabs at each other and alleging that either one of them has hugely been part and parcel of matters graft in the country. As many would say, one of the biggest thing that lags us behind as a people is the fact that in as much as we go out there borrowing, in as much as we collect so much from the common mwananchi, there is never value for that money, simply because graft has literally eaten all sectors. For a moment, we argued that graft has been devolved, sort of weighing down the gains that we would have wished to make on matters devolution and generally in terms of progress as a country. And therefore, if at all we're able to deal with graft, we're able to deal with corrupt activities in the country, then many say that we might not even go to levels of having to borrow so that we are able to sustain our very own budget. And therefore, anytime we hear someone mention the name corruption, our antennas shoot up. We all need to know whether indeed our agencies would be able to investigate and present the courts with tangible evidence to incriminate these individuals. So we look at that, and we need to understand whether corruption is one thing that will shape the conversation of politics of the electioneering period come 2022. Of course, after Right Honorable Raila Odinga and the DP have fired salvos at each other. And as many would say, at least for now, if we are to predict anything for 2022, then it's going to be a race between these two individuals. We'll be discussing that alongside my guests this morning. I'll be introducing them later on the broadcast. We also do not run away from discussing matters BBI and matters politics in general and the education sector. But importantly, that is later on in the broadcast from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. We talk matters relationships. And in most cases, you are in love, you're in this relationship, you're married, you are a couple. And as many would look at you, they would assume that all is well with you people. But there's instances where one is depressed because of the events that are taking center stage in this relationship. And therefore, we'll be engaging specialists who will tell us, what point then do you know that there is some tendency of distress, some tendency of stress, depression when you're in a relationship? What are the telltale signs? What do you need to do in the event that you start, troubleshooting such? What do you do to make sure that you do not have your partner or yourself being stressed out just because of the events of this relationship, or of course what plays out in this relationship? Really, really important. The highest cases of mental, unwellness is one of the key things that is here. I don't know whether unwellness is an English word, but yes, being told that nowadays there's a lot of, issues to do with mental health that are coming out, and therefore a majority will tell you it's because of the draining moments within their very own relationship. So we'll be giving you answers as to how you can avoid the same, and make sure that indeed you also ask all these questions that you'd want answered. And like I said, the program is Morning Cafe. My name is Linda Alela. The broadcast begins right now. We have the papers. That's what we update you on. The Standard newspaper, the People Daily, and the Daily Nation. Front page of the Standard newspaper and the Daily Nation. Let's start with the Standard newspaper here. Here we are with the Standard newspaper. Uhuru's men turn guns on each other. This on matters succession politics is one thing that we do not stop talking about, because, well, as the constitution would dictate, President Uhuru Kenyatta is about to exit the stage. But when he exits, just who is capable of taking the mantle from him? One would probably wish that he would, propose someone within the Jubilee Party. But it appears that President Uhuru Kenyatta might take a different direction. And deep inside the heart of Jubilee Party, there is trouble after kicking out rebels, or the allies of Deputy President William Ruto, that is in the ruling Jubilee Party. Party is now rocked by fresh infighting for its control, signaling a possible strategy by some insiders for a post-Uhuru Kenyatta leadership of the party. What way Jubilee? As they would say, the house is still in order. They're having plans. They're fixing themselves. They're planning themselves just to see to it that come 2022 as a party, they will still be strong and formidable. We'll be discussing this later on as we continue. And matters education, as I had earlier mentioned, it's important that we touch on this. Teachers' pay boom as state unlocks NAT millions, and long sinking on suffering teachers who hang on to a sinking union to get between 192,000 and 360,000 in backdated salaries deal. Good deal? Well, we can only wait and see at this point, when they've still been pushing for that quest to make sure that the CBA is addressed, or the agreement that they've had with the commission is actually looked into. And Teacher Service Commission Chief Executive Officer Nancy Macharia, and of course the NAT Secretary General Collins Oyu are captured right here. It's not been all rosy. That is in the first stages of his tenure. It appears like it's not going to be an easy ride, but, well, we wait to see whether he is certainly up to the task. Matters education also captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. We'll be looking at that as we proceed. Church protest against high taxes. The umbrella body of Kenyan churches has condemned punitive taxation, called for postponement of the Building Bridges initiative, and equally demanded strict adherence to the 2022 general electoral calendar. And that is a story captured on page 5. Well, on the aspect of taxes, not very many Kenyans are happy about the same, because, well, household commodities, the basic commodities, are extremely expensive at this particular point, and it appears as though it's not going to get any rosier, and therefore that means we need to brace ourselves even more to have our pockets pinched further. But the question of accountability still lingers as to whether indeed we're going to get value for money. Rapists and robbers stuck with sentences, as courts can only impose minimum sentences prescribed by law if convicts challenge it and convince judges that the punishment meted out is unconstitutional. Supreme Court judges rule. That is a story captured on page 8 and 9. For the longest of time, it's been search for justice for the vulnerable, but it appears these also are individuals who are vulnerable in their own special way, and therefore this ruling is going to go a long way in terms of addressing lots of this, but equally is not going to augur well with the majority of people. You can always grab a copy and get to understand details of the same on page 8 and 9. And yes, let's look at other stories. Ethiopia begins feeling dumb. That is a story captured on page 30 of the Standard newspaper. Anything else? Let's see. Kinoti moves 44 DCI officers in changes. Is a story captured on page 7. Eyes on the DCI, the DPP, the EACC, just to see to it that they're able to bring and to maintain sanity in the country in terms of security, in terms of dealing with graft, in terms of, presenting a tangible evidence for certain cases that are there or that bedevil the society. And therefore, sometimes sometimes a review of course, the positions of the officers and, changes that are normally conducted are always necessary towards spearheading these activities. That is the front page of the Standard newspaper. We briefly look at what the Daily Nation has. And here we are. I guess we lost it somehow, but not to worry, because we are going to make sure that we fix this as we get to see what happens. Meanwhile, let's look at the People Daily. Intricate web in MP's 12 billion fortune. Here we go. This is a story that was there last week. It looks like, yes, it continues on. Detectives have pieced together details on how Gachagua registered 49 companies which he used to mint millions and cover his tracks. It's going to be messy, as they would say, and so we wait to see what plays out in this. Key pillars on matters accounts. Politician opened at least 33 bank accounts through which payments were made and sometimes money hastily withdrawn. And number two, companies, some of the firms received billions from the government were owned by the Member of Parliament and his family members, friends, or his proxies. And on the youth, young people who were used as decors in the ownership of the companies appeared clueless, naive, and had no idea about the businesses. And who are the beneficiaries? Most of the money transfers ended up in company known as Wamunyoro Investment Limited, jointly owned by the Member of Parliament and his wife. Matters graft, and the detectives are on it. According to Rigathi Gachagua, he says, "I am not ready to fight the DCI George Kinoti through the media, but let him prepare himself for a battle royale in court. He can combine his efforts with the EACC because he still maintains that he is innocent." Let's wait to see how that is going to take shape, at the level of the courts. It's probably not going to be rosy for him, but in the event that he'll be able to present tangible evidence that will help him off the dock, then definitely is one thing that the courts will probably always be willing to listen to. And fielding Ukambani leaders cut Uhuru trip. And President Uhuru Kenyatta was set to travel to Ukambani region this week. But well, as the leaders themselves would argue, there is a lot of indifference between them that probably could have instigated or could have caused that about-turn move by President Uhuru Kenyatta. The eagerly awaited presidential visit reduced to just one day, that is on a Friday. So we can wait to see what then they would be able to mint out of this. And of course, the biggest question continues to be, why is it that the president thought otherwise on this particular trip, to a point of even reducing the days of visit? As of course, the key leaders in Ukambani region, all the governors seek to see that they are able to maybe clinch the presidential seat. At least we've seen Makueni governor declaring his interest. We've seen Machakos governor, that is Alfred Mutua, equally declaring his interest. We know very well the kingpin of Ukambani, that is Kalonzo Musyoka, has also declared his interest. The likes of Johnson Muzdama are out there in support of Deputy President William Ruto. So it's typically a house that is not speaking in the same terms, and therefore maybe could be a great undoing to their political moves in terms of making sure that Ukambani gets the best, because that technically splits the vote hugely. Kenya risks losing COVID-19 funding over KEMSA fraud. That is a story captured on page 6. And it's going to be messy, it will be noisy, it will be unfortunate that we have to lose the same that would come in handy in making sure that majority of Kenyans are able to access this care that comes along with dealing with COVID-19, simply because we've not been able to get answers as to what really played out at the level of KEMSA, and therefore it is something that needs to be looked into. And so we'll see how then this will be received and what direction will be taken on this one. Therefore, let's drop that one for a moment and just try to get a hold of the Daily Nation. It's all right, we'll have it on screen, and I also have a hard copy of the same. Raila, my terms for NASA trio. ODM leader says he will only support whoever wins in a competitive competition, and the joint primaries should be conducted by not less than the IEBC, and core principles should choose between universal suffrage and delegates system. And this, of course, is what Right Honorable Raila Odinga wishes for his core principles, and would want ODM leader out. I mean, the core principles will definitely want ODM leader out of the race. It is indeed the race to State House. We do not know whether NASA still holds or not. Is a question of wait and see. No end in sight to feud over 2022 presidential ticket, as the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga throws coalition partners Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula off balance with conditions he terms is irreducible, or his irreducible minimums. A story captured on page 4 of the Daily Nation. We'll be getting details of this as we continue to, hold the broadcast, and definitely we'll have the guests that we have this morning as well weigh in their sentiments. We have a member of parliament that has been elected under ANC this morning, and therefore it will be good to hear his view on the same, especially knowing very well that their leader is Musalia Mudavadi, and maybe their wish would be to push him to that level of presidency. KEMSA ghosts, Kenya could lose about 48 billion from Global Fund if it does not complete KEMSA scandal probe. A story captured on the back page right here, and that in regards to also what it is that has been captured on the People Daily. And KEMSA graft puts a 45 billion grant at risk. Whether we need these monies or not is something that is debatable, but aside from it, I think it's only fair that we get answers as to this particular graft issue that is quite huge at a point when Kenyans really needed that help. Uhuru salvages Ukambani tour, intense lobbying culminating in a decision by President Kenyatta to rescind an earlier cancellation of his planned tour of the region. A story captured on page 5 as he visits that region. Then we'll be waiting to see what goodies he takes to the people of Ukambani and what he's likely to gain when he goes there, and how significant then that visit would be. Kirubi son-in-law joins Centum board. That is on matters succession, just taking up from where the father-in-law left it at, and we keep saying may his soul rest in eternal peace. Watch out for TSC traps, Sushun tells new leaders. And yes, like we said, we look forward to see how OU is going to be able to handle the not, of course, to see to it that teachers are able to get their rights. And that's more like it. The key stories that have been captured on the Daily Nation. We'll be looking at them extensively alongside my guests. And later on also, I think it will be important that we also take a look at what is on the roads. I don't know whether there's much or there's any cause of alarm, and I don't know how clear then you are able to see this. Let's see whether we can get something for you just to update you so that you're not caught somewhere in traffic. It's really important that we work together. And now that we are privy to this information, here we are. And let's see what roads are alarming this morning. Evidently, from a glance, I can tell Jogoo Road does not look all rosy this morning. This is Jogoo Road, but not as bad as such, because then you can tell us there is some tenets of traffic around Makadara, which is always a common thing, but it is somehow moving. This is Jogoo Road from that Donholm roundabout. That is Outer Ring Road. Moving on as you're trying to find yourself into the city. This is Jogoo Road, as you can see right here. So if you're taking Jogoo Road, you won't know what it is that you expect. If you can escape that and take Outer Ring Road, maybe it will be safer for you. There is some tenets of traffic though. Around Feather Estate, it is quite heavy. That is when you're almost getting to Feather Estate here. As you can tell, the traffic is extremely heavy, and therefore you need to be keen when taking that direction, especially when you're headed to Thika Road. It is a bit hectic there. Let's look whether it is the case all the way, but it appears that the other parts of Outer Ring are pretty much of an ease, and therefore you need not to worry when taking that direction. Before I come to Thika Road, let's briefly look at what is happening on this end of Embakasi, the airport road. The airport road doesn't look so bad this morning, all the way up to this point of Embakasi as it comes to connect you to that is Cabanas, and you drop over to Mombasa Road. As you can tell, Mombasa Road this morning down there from Cabanas, not bad. As you headed to the city, it is somewhere around General Motors where there's some tenets of quite heavy traffic, and I also can tell that some roadworks that are ongoing right there. So if you're taking Mombasa Road, you expect that around General Motors, as you get to connect to Enterprise Road, you could find some tenets of traffic, but then it's somehow, it is moving, as you can tell with the yellow line that dictates that yes, there is a bit of traffic, but it is flowing, and therefore flows all the way down. So it's not so bad on Mombasa Road as you would expect. Even the orange line dictates that yes, tenets of traffic, but it is all moving as you connect to Lusaka Road. Lusaka Road is evidently not bad this morning, as you can see. Same applies to Bunyala Road. Doesn't appear to be so bad this morning as you look at this sides of Madaraka Estate and you come to this point where you connect to Langata Road. At this point, Langata Road is all rosy this morning, as you can see, connecting to the bypass. Pretty much of an ease. This is Langata Road all the way. Let's look at Bagathi. Bagathi Way is also not looking bad. As you can see, you come and connect to Ngong Road, and Ngong Road is also not as ugly this morning. So that means if you've not stepped out, kindly step out as early as now before traffic can starts to pile up, because this is Nairobi. You never know. 1 minute there's no traffic, 1 minute there's so much traffic, 1 minute there's no rain. Before you know it, it is raining cats and dogs, and that's more like it. Lusaka Road, some tenets of traffic, but it is not that bad. That is from Mombasa Road and going into the city. And these are the bits. Let's look at the size of Ngara around out of University Way. Some tenets of traffic that are moving, and this is Ngara. Kipande Road not bad. Muranga Road also on this side doesn't appear to be bad. The likes of Ngara East, somewhere around Odeon there, you need not to worry when taking that direction. And connecting to these sides of Parklands, this is Parklands. It brings you all the way to where it is that we are. Not much of traffic on that road. That is Ojijo Road. And Waiyaki Way also does not look ugly. Some tenets, small tenets of traffic, but then it is flowing as you'd expect, coming to connect to this side of ABC Place. And ABC Place, it takes you down to the likes of James Gishuru all the way down to Lavington, Kileleshwa. You can tell all these roads are pretty much of an ease. Oloitoktok, Kikambala Road, pretty much of an ease. Gitanga Road is not so bad until you get to this point where you connect to Macharia Road. There is some tenets of heavy traffic, probably occasioned by buses carrying passengers as they would want to get to the city. As you coming from Kawangware, that's where you find some tenets of traffic, but then it's not as bad. Kabiria Road, Kikuyu Road, all of them not looking so bad this morning. All right, I was a bit hard on that, and let's see whether we'll be able to get a hold of it. And as we try to do so, until I'm able to get, yes, here we are. It has taken us all the way to Zambia. And so, yes, even if you want to know what is happening in Zambia, I'd be here to make sure that you get tenets of this. Anyway, as we try to fix that, I think we have touched on some of the key roads that would be of essence. Thika Road this morning, from the initial glance, did not appear to be so bad. And so once I'm able again to trace that, I'll make sure that you are updated on the same. And for you who's also using the roads, kindly #Morning Cafe, drop us the comments, tell us what the roads look like this morning, so that we are able to address all of us and maybe advise all of us accordingly. Here we are, and like I said, it does not appear to be so bad somewhere around Thika Road, and therefore in case of anything, I'll make sure that I'm here somewhere around Quiver there, where of course there's a story that is ongoing, developing story that we are working on. It appears like it's not so bad. So once we get a clear view and anything else, I'll make sure that I purpose to update you briefly and to what it is that my team has prepared. And a group of senators are now pushing that for more economy-oriented COVID-19 protocol, that is to ease the ravages of the pandemic, led by Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. The senators have pointed an accusing finger at the government for allowing the so-called COVID-19 billionaires to walk scot-free, yet the billions of shillings have allegedly been stolen at the expense of managing the COVID-19 situation.
It goes without saying that COVID-19 has caused a serious drag in the economy, making the lives of many Kenyans miserable. And now, a section of senators want the government to provide the way forward by crafting strategies to cushion the people and the economy.
But when you go to these areas, Madam Speaker, the close down is a field day for the police. Every evening, Madam Speaker, I was at home over the weekend. You see a band of policemen walking with women. They have arrested selling vegetables, and they are 10 minutes past 7. They arrest them and walk with them up to midnight.
While making contributions on the floor of the House, Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen pointed an accusing finger at the government. Murkomen was specifically agitated by the government for what he said were knee-jerk reactions instead of offering long-term remedies to the ravages of the pandemic.
This nation at the moment should be discussing about 20 million Kenyans have been vaccinated. We should be saying everybody who is above 50 years has been vaccinated. We should be discussing in July 2021 that the country has been opened and no one should fear coming to this nation for tourism because Kenya has vaccinated more than 70% of its population. A lot of our resources are being channeled to useless things. Things to do with changing the constitution, Madam Speaker. Things to do with paying lawyers to defend a process of changing the constitution.
Hapa kwetu, Mheshimiwa Spika, tunakwenda hatua mbili mbele, tunarudi hatua tano nyuma. Tunakwenda hatua mbili mbele, tunarudi hatua tano nyuma. Kwa mfano, Mheshimiwa Spika, tumezungumzia haya mambo ya social distance kwa muda mrefu, mambo ya kuvaa barakoa kwa muda mrefu.
The Ministry of Health that has so far partially vaccinated more than 1 million Kenyans is also on the spot. The Senate says the health docket has been captured by the so-called cartels who are making a kill through tenderpreneurships. The senators lament financial boost by the international monetary bodies to the health docket have ended in scandals and no culprits have been brought to book.
The little resources we are allocated by the national government and the on-source revenue generated from the county government is not utilized properly to take care of our population. Madam Speaker, the challenge we have in this country is corruption from the sweeper.
Crowning that, Madam Speaker, is the massive and monstrous frauds that have gone on at KEMSA on COVID. Instead of people fighting the pandemic, people are seeing it as an avenue and a highway for ill-gotten wealth.
Also, the senators have accused the government of not creating awareness to convince more people to get vaccinated.
The US has vaccinated 137 million people so far. China has vaccinated 1 billion so far. India is getting there.
Kenya has vaccinated only 0.7% of its adult population against COVID-19. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
And in the same breath, the global community has threatened to pull out its donor support should the government fail to streamline corruption scandals currently facing KEMSA. This as Kenya signed a 3-year grant worth 48 billion shillings for the treatment of TB, malaria and HIV and AIDS. Governors have recommended that the county governments should be sub-recipients of the global fund, bearing in mind that they already have received an account for conditional grants.
This long-term relationship has resulted in remarkable progress in reduction in the 3 major public health diseases of HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. The narrations that we heard earlier this morning, from Kenyans benefiting from the program is a testament of its positive impact on lives. The investments by the Global Fund and other partners have resulted in steady decrease of HIV prevalence from a high of 11% in 1998 to the current level of 4.9%. Over 75% of the 1.49 million people living with HIV in Kenya are on antiretroviral therapy. Impressive outcomes in TB control have also been achieved through these partnerships, especially in the last 3 years. Treatment success among the TB patients has improved from 81% in 2018 to 85% in 2021. As a result, the incidence rate has been declining by 8% annually, an indication that the current TB control interventions are effective. Through the Global Fund support, patients with multi-drug resistant TB are receiving the benefit of social protection through enrollment in the National Health Insurance Fund.
Dickson Njanja Mararo, man accused of shooting 2 police officers and a lady at club along the Thika Superhighway over the weekend, will know if he will be released on bail Wednesday or be detained for a further 14 days. Now, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has applied to continue holding the suspect pending completion of investigation into the matter. Njanja turned himself in Thursday at the DCI headquarters Monday afternoon, accompanied by his lawyer, after going under following the weekend incident, as Mwangi Maina tells us.
Clad in a 3-piece suit, the gun-toting 27-year-old Dickson Njanja Mararo was presented before the High Court in Milimani, Nairobi, accompanied by his defense team before Lady Justice Zainab Abdul. It is alleged Njanja shot 2 police officers and a lady believed to be his girlfriend at a popular entertainment joint along the Thika Superhighway on Saturday night before going under. It is alleged the altercation ensued over a love affair. The DCI, through an affidavit filed in court by Chief Inspector Joy Frendado, wants the suspect detained for a fortnight as probe into the case goes on. The DCI, over the 14 days, seeks to record statements, retrieve CCTV footage from Quiver Lounge, and examine medical reports from the victims of Njanja's shooting. The court heard one of the police officers is in critical condition, while his counterpart and the lady victim were treated and discharged.
The moment the suspect will be arraigned, in the moment that we are charging him with the offense, the victims will have knowledge of the suspect, and this will bring about objection of having known the suspect prior.
Njanja, through his counsel, lawyer Cliff Ombeta, has opposed DCI's application, claiming he's not a flight risk. Ombeta told the court that the police have gathered all the evidence they required, and the suspect will be presented to the DCI if need be.
That I presented the suspect to the officers at CID headquarters. If they want him any other day, even tomorrow, or any other day that they want, I'll take him. I'll personally take him there. All these things that they need to do right now do not need his presence. Anything else they want to ask him, we shall go.
However, Dan Maanzo, the counsel representing one of the victims who is admitted in hospital, urged the court to grant the police 14 days to complete the investigations owing to the grave charge of attempted murder, as his client is still in critical condition.
It will be of importance that the suspect is detained, so that we could have enough time to know which way the prosecution will go.
A semi-automatic pistol and 38 rounds of ammunition were recovered from the suspect facing attempted murder charges. Whether or not he will be released on bail or be detained further will be decided tomorrow. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is now scheduled to tour the Ukambani region this Friday. The tour that had been cancelled has been rescheduled after a meeting with leaders from the region. And as Elizabeth Mutuku now reports, the leaders were said to have disagreed on the tour that has now been scaled down in pursuit of course, so much of the Ukambani unity.
President Kenyatta's Ukambani tour has now been rescheduled for Friday this week, just a day after the tour was cancelled. The president's tour will however, be scaled down to avoid public gatherings due to COVID-19 situation. The president will be inspecting development projects in the area.
We have to have responsibility to protect our people, the people of Ukambani. And if the president find that the trip might be cause triggers of COVID, I would not wish even to be part and parcel of it. We can postpone. But I can assure you that the presidential trip is still on. It's only a matter of rescheduling to a different date.
Jambo la kwanza ni kuchunga wananchi. Na niseme ya kwamba pia budget imesomwa tu hivi juzi, na kabla mwezi wa Julai kwisha budget itakuwa imepeanwa na serikali, na hivyo basi miradi ambayo itaendelea kwa mwaka mmoja ambao unabaki Ukambani itakuwa sasa imetokelezea wazi, ndio hata rais mwenyewe aweze kutangaza yale.
In a statement issued by State House spokesman Kanzidena said the head of state's itinerary had been reviewed following the consultative meeting with leaders from the lower eastern region comprising the counties of Kitui, Machakos and Makueni. The president is expected to visit Konsa City Project and Thwake Dam, which are in Makueni and Machakos counties respectively.
We consulted and we said no. I mean, if that's the advice, then we must stick to that advice. We need our people. We need to protect them. And so, whatever else you're hearing, I don't know where you're getting it from. And I don't know what is the problem with leaders having divergent opinions on one issue. It happens all over.
We care about our people. We don't want to spread this COVID issue. So we've agreed, as the leaders from the region, that he will visit areas where we will avoid crowds to make sure that our people are safe, even including ourselves.
Divisions and supremacy battle between Ukambani leaders were reported to have led the tour of the region to be postponed for the second time. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and 3 Ukambani governors are said to have failed to agree on how to go about the tour.
Kwa hivyo kama iko malumbano yoyote imaliziwe, ndio rais akikuja kufungua afungue kitu halali, asikuja kufungua kitu ambacho katika hesabu za serikali haijulikani. Mheshimiwa Mutua hana chochote ya kuonyesha. Aliahidi wananchi mambo ya kujenga mji mpya wa Machakos, hakujenga. Mheshimiwa Kibwana hana chochote cha kuonyesha kule Ukambani, hana mradi yoyote ambayo imekamilika na inatumika na wananchi. Kwa hivyo kama Kikote kitasafishwa, basi ningependa rais aifungue.
Na nataka kuambia wakati wa pang'ang'a na siasa na porojo ulipitwa na wakati Kenya hii. Kama chama cha Wiper tulipojitolea kufanya kazi na chama cha Jubilee, sisi tuliamua kwa kauli moja tutashirikiana na rais na tutafuata masharti yale tutapewa yote. Kwa hivyo mtu ambaye ako na fikira zake tofauti, namwambia wale wake.
Maneno ya Kikotek, that's a very local issue. I will be very honest with you. Na mimi msimamo wangu wa Kikotek si wa leo, si wa jana ati vile president anaenda huko, hapana. Msimamo wangu wa Kikotek umekuwa hadharani kwa kila mtu. Kila mtu wote wa kaunti ya Kitui anajua. Senator Enoch K. Wambua amesema mradi wa Kikotek si halali. Yaani sio kitu ya kuficha.
In the previous arrangement, the leaders had stated the projects they want achieved in the region. Despite of evident differences among Ukambani leaders pertaining the presidential visit in the region, now the leaders insist that they are united in welcoming him in the region. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47 Nairobi.
Now, the National Council of Churches of Kenya has condemned the imposing of excise duty by the government without considering the fate of people and challenges they are going through after the ripple effects of COVID-19 pandemic. The incoming Nairobi Regional Council, that is the chairman, Reverend Dr. Alphonse Kanga, while addressing the media, has called on the government to suspend the Finance Bill 2021, which has radically increased the prices of basic consumer products. Meanwhile, the council has faulted leaders calling for the postponement of next year's general elections.
Swahili and English.
And then I think we shall do a side interview because we have vernacular skills about
Press statements. This regional conference calls for an immediate reversal of the emerging trend of the punitive taxation of Kenyans. We are very disappointed by our members of parliament who passed the Finance Bill 2021, which has radically increased the prices of basic consumer products. without an accompanying growth of the economy and family incomes. The rise in taxation is in essence a deliberate impoverishment of Kenyans. We must end the culture of waiting for politicians coming to make promises of what they will do when elected, and instead change the campaign forums to be times when community members present memorandums to aspirants and only elect those who have clear strategies to implement them. Let us all make it clear that the citizens are the employers of political leaders, not the other way around.
The swearing-in of Anne Kananu as Nairobi governor has been halted for a second time by the courts after an appeal made by activist Okiera Mtata. Now, the judges said the swearing-in will be temporarily halted until the appeal has been heard and determined. The first swearing-in was halted earlier in January after a case was filed by the Law Society of Kenya, LSK. Anne Kananu on April this year said she will contest for Nairobi governor's position next year. Her former boss and Governor Mike Sonko nominated her as his deputy on January the 6th last year, but the court blocked the county assembly from vetting her. My guests this morning are Betty Adera, National Chair, KANU Women Congress, and we also have Honorable Kasim Tandaza, Member of Parliament, Matuga, and equally Honorable James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North, that will help us decipher on the topics of discussion. We pick on matters politics, wits, and graft. It is one thing that is going to cost Kenyans, if at all we still are going to maintain this conversation of graft, and corruption as it stands. It appears that indeed, as of course projected and by the president himself, he says that we lose approximately 2 billion in a day. That's quite huge. The biggest problem, as it is of course said, is corruption in the country, in the sense that if we're able to manage our funds well, get accountability, then probably we might not even need to overborrow so that we are able to sustain our very own budget. Well, the budget estimates themselves not so friendly for the common mwananchi, and we've seen a majority of them going to challenge this in court. A Kenyan also going to challenge the same in court and suing a CS for Treasury, Ukuri Etani, in regards to the same. And it is not going to be any rosy if at all then we are able to fund this humongous budget, as they would say. 2021-2022 financial year is not going to be so good for Kenyans, because then we have to go an extra mile to make sure that we're able to sustain the debt, one, and also sustain the budget as it is. The amounts of money that we are collecting in terms of revenue way below the bar, and therefore we are left with no choice but to feel the pinch. But just who's going to, get into the line and make sure that the common mwananchi is cushioned? Certainly a question of wait and see. Politically, so much is playing out right here. Fingers pointed, across, of course, with leaders arguing that one is, involved on matters graft, others saying that yes, you've also been involved in matters graft. And the biggest question then is, why are they not taking the right procedures in terms of dealing with the same? We have agencies, we have the right places to go and report this and, start a case for that matter, or instigate a case for that matter. But such is not what is playing out. Are they just toying around with us? Well, some of the key things that we'll be looking at this morning as we continue with the conversation, and therefore as I loop in my guests, before we even delve deep into the key things that I've picked, that is on matters graft and the politics of succession, the politics of the day in the country, key things that have been captured on the papers that are really, really important we might need to look at. And if you don't mind, Mheshimiwa, kindly pass this to Honorable Tandaza so that he's able to be in the loop. And that last story that we have picked, and I'll probably start with Betty being the woman here. It is not all rosy for Kananu, in as much as she has appeared to, remain strong.
Certainly not, and good morning.
Good morning.
We have seen over the last couple of years since her nomination by the then governor of Nairobi, Mike Sonko, to be the deputy. And remember, that came after many, many months, or certainly years, of Nairobi County not having a deputy governor.
Right.
And then when she was nominated by the governor, before she could be, brought for vetting in the House, then the court matters and the court dramas, started. And then after that, the impeachment of the then governor himself, and of course the bringing forward of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services led by Major General, you find that now this wars continue and continue. Yeah. And even when Kenyans or Nairobians thought that we would go to, a by-election in Nairobi, that didn't happen. And again, Kananu was brought in. My take is that we do not have time, for drama.
Yeah.
Nairobians need services. Nairobians need to see the leadership face, coming forward clearly that it is this and not the other, or it is this and it is this. So for me, I just urge the persons, concerned and the legal apparatus to think critically, on this matter and just put it to rest, once and for all, so that Nairobians can settle and then just wait for 2022 for their new leaders, to come in. But what is critical is that the delaying of her swearing in, interfering or hindering with service provision. To me, that is the greatest question, that we need to ask and answer.
Maybe we should ask Honorable Gakuya here, who's a member of parliament in Nairobi. Has it in any way altered a service delivery? We have NMS on ground. Do you suppose the politics that is still on in Nairobi is healthy for the people?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Allow me to salute the viewers wherever they are watching us from. In matter towards Kananu and Nairobi politics, what I can say is that it has been a long way since we stepped on this long foot. We started with a governor who was not serious enough to undertake what we call rule of law, which guarantees him to have a deputy in position, and who took all his tenure after resignation of his first deputy. He took all his tenure with jokes. And issues arriving with Kananu actually came out as a result of governor's failure to undertake his mandate. If Governor Sonko was serious enough, we could not be having these circles in court. Because I think these circles came as a result of his unseriousness. And what I can say for now is that we are better, that at least most of the services were transferred to national government, to an entity or an agency, which is NMS. That is only the area that actually Nairobi could say that actually the service is not completely stopped. We are enjoying the services for NMS, though not 100%, because there are also areas that actually were left under the county government, and that those services must be rendered by the county government itself, because it's not the whole services of the county government that was transferred.
In acting capacity or in the capacity that she's in, Anne Kananu cannot be able to deliver the same? I
can tell you that in fact, as a deputy governor, you are not locked by any hindrance on your space. Because you can act as a governor to there is nothing that the Kananu can't sign on behalf of the county government. And therefore, once you are governor, you are deputy governor, you undertake when the governor is not there. And now that the governor is not there, she undertakes. Only what is lacking, that is, has not been elevated to that position of governor, but she is acting at the capacity of the governor.
And therefore, why should we lack some of these services?
I am saying we has been lacking. Currently, it is her failure. If we are missing some services, it's a failure of the deputy governor, and she's in charge. She must take charge, and she must not be in madness of becoming governor anytime soon. Let those who are willing to be on the side shows in court keep their business there, but she should keep her business at the jurisdiction of the Nairobi County. That's the position she is. and she is able to articulate his job with that particular position he's holding currently.
Maybe just for us to understand, just how important is this process of swearing in Honorable Tandaza, and looking at this petition or looking at this case filed by Okiya Omtata. On numerous occasions he's done, he's filed matters in court, matters that would fall under, the interest of the common mwananchi. At probably 3/4 of the cases that he's filed, he's been able to justify the reason why he argues the way he argues, and therefore is one thing that we cannot look at and maybe just wish away. Do you suppose he has some basis, and what is the essence of swearing in? How much of a difference would it bring in terms of Kananu holding the seat, with authority and being able to, work on her mandate?
Thank you, Linda, once again, and our esteemed viewers. I would be looking at it from basically 3 different angles. One, it is important to have a substantive governor in any situation, because the constitution is very clear. What would happen now if for any reason Kananu is not able to perform her duties as the deputy? Because it is stipulated that you need a governor and a deputy, so that the deputy comes in if for any reason the governor is not there. So by law, it is important that we have a substantive governor. Whether she performs as a governor vis-a-vis not performing as a deputy governor, that's a different matter. But I would agree with the Mheshimiwa Gakuya here that as a deputy with no governor, then essentially a governor. But for the purposes of smooth running of the county, because now she doesn't have anybody she can't even take probably 2 weeks off. And as a human being, as a normal worker, if I definitely need to take a leave. Though in our Kenyan situation, our leaders they don't like taking leave. That is now a different matter and different debate. So for that matter, there is need to have her sworn in as a governor, so that she can also then nominate a deputy governor and the process continues.
Okay.
2, the other matter of the performance, I've already touched on that. But I said there is another issue here which I would want, which comes into focus.
Okay.
The type of leaders that the voters actually elect. And basically, we've always had this debate about the problem of democracy when it comes to electing executives. It doesn't matter electing a politician. A politician will mirror the voter, no problem. They'll vote what the person they want. Right. But when it comes to electing the executive, I think here democracy would assume that the voter knows the duties of that executive.
Okay.
And that's the time now we'll say, for this job, this one, he could be a good, he could be a sweet talker, he could be a charming person, he could be my relative. But since his or her duties are A, B, C, D, which I understand, then we need some form of professionalism in this kind of a leader.
Okay.
But Linda, what happens is, even when it comes to electing the executives, people elect the way they would elect an ordinary politician. And I think that brings another problem. Not only at the county government, where we have executives elected by the population, but even at the top, at the presidency, you see. Because here, the ordinary voter, the one who would want to refer to as Wanjiku, actually does not understand the roles and duties. And nobody has taken time to actually educate the masses that when you are electing the executive, the situation is a little bit different.
Okay.
So here we are going to have that problem, I think, even in the next general election, for as long as the ordinary voter does not understand. About the many cases in court and Okiya Omtata, I think we were in another forum, I think 2 weeks ago, with my sister here, Kanu Mandeleo. And I think while the other East African countries where we were together in that forum agreed that Kenyans have really made a lot of strides in terms of democracy. We were telling them our democracy sometimes has reached a point where we can hardly move, because that's the fact. Somebody is, even the executive, you remember when the president says, Sasa nifanye nini? Here's the situation where probably he thinks I should fire this person. Because of the democracy and there's so many cases that they'll ensue, he knows very well that he'll end up paying this person more. Yeah, he knows that he has stolen. But now to prove and to go and the Okiya Omtatas who will take any matter in court in terms of procedure, because I think Okiya Omtata here, I have to laud him when it comes to matters procedure, because somebody is fired and he says, no, the right procedure was not followed. So he goes back. But the problem is that this person has committed a crime. But our democracy allows us to question anything in court, and that's the problem. So I think at one point, Okiya Mtata also has to balance between the matters procedure, which is good at, and the common good. You know, what would be the benefit that people will enjoy if we had a substantive governor or a substantive, or if the CEO is removed from his position, whether the procedure is followed or not, but Kenyan money, taxpayers' money, is actually being lost, and it affects the whole country. So it's really a balance of so many issues here.
And true to it, there are lots of stories that have been captured here that speak hugely of the taxpayers' money. At this point, we are likely to lose a grant of about 48 billion, simply because we are being told that we have to deal with the aspect of KEMSA. I do not know whether that's a polite way of telling us that we're not going to give you this aid, because then I don't know how quick then we can move in to make sure that we're able to deal with the KEMSA scandal. President Uhuru Kenyatta gives a timeline of 21 days that he should be getting answers. And we are months and months later or down, nothing really has been echoed out in terms of this. Let's come to the capability of the investigative bodies that we put on board. I remember at the time we had the DPP coming in, Nordin Haji. There were lots of celebrations as to how he's capable of handling this, and over time maybe he's proven that indeed he's capable. But are we really getting what it is that we need to deal with this? Because again, we point fingers at the courts as being the missing link to dealing with matters graft. Looked at the papers this morning, and close to 3/4 of the stories that are being captured here are matters graft. Honorable Gakuya.
In short, this tells you that actually we are moving very slow in our structures of fighting corruption. And where we are going wrong, Linda, is that we have reached a point where we have started applying to what you call a double standard in our fight against corruption. You find that corruption that matters to do with KEMSA, even with assurance from the head of state that within 20 days, then all the culprits will be will be known. Up even to date, that list has been in the picture publicly by IMF asking that list to be printed. Today, it's not there. It's not upcoming. And my biggest question is, we have special peoples here in the country that cannot be exposed, and we have lesser people that can be exposed any single time. This is where we are getting wrong, and we cannot achieve much if we keep on applying this double standard of fighting corruption. If corruption is done by Mr. X, that is corruption. But if corruption is done by Mr. T, that is not corruption. That is purely what we are getting the picture. And even though the president will keep fighting this war, if he cannot clear the mess of KEMSA, then he's under siege. And the country is under siege in this particular cause. This is a matter where this matter happens when Ruto was not in the government. He's the person who has been carrying the burden there before. That is a person who is copying the government. This now has happened with his main people. Are well known, and some others has also been invited to the parliamentary watchdogs to also to present their evidence there. We have heard them. Nothing is taking place. Even these structures we have, these commissions we have, that is DCI, anti-corruption, the DPP, they are totally mute in this matter. And I am asking myself, why are our commissions mute in this particular matter, where even lenders of our cash are insisting that the list to be printed, and it's not coming to the fore.
One point to note, do you think that the DP's name is being dragged into these conversations of corruption unfairly? Before you answer that, because we know what happened over the weekend, and the utterances and the salvos that he fired at the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, in response to what it is that the Right Honorable had said earlier on. Betty, it is not just KEMSA. is Goldenberg. It's numerous other cases that have been there in the past.
And it's getting very complicated, you know, by the day. And the amounts being siphoned get bigger, bigger and higher, you know, every single day. And if you look at the World Bank report 2019, you know, suggests that 17.6 million Kenyans live below $1 a day. They are classified as poor. Kenya is number 6 globally in terms of the number of poor people, you know, we have. When I just look at this one example of KEMSA, 48 billion. Do you know just how much even 1 billion can do in terms of uplifting our young people, uplifting women, uplifting young women and girls, getting everyone to school, improving the quality, you know, of healthcare, improving infrastructure, improving access to opportunities, you know, for our young people who are well read but zero, you know, zero opportunities, zero place to, you know, to gainfully engage in income generation. This is actually sad. And you cannot tell me in this country that even 100,000 can disappear from the public coffers and nobody knows where it went to, all right? So for me, I want to say that the fight against corruption is like a double-edged sword. You can't say it's that side, it's that side, it's this side, it's this side. It's almost, you know, across the divide. So for me, I want to place it back to where the emphasis belongs, you know, to the head of state. We are with you. You know, the Wanjiku is with you in terms of the fight against corruption, because when corruption continuously and over a period, you know, happens, the person who is suffering is actually not the people out there. Up there, it's the people actually down here who then begin to lack services. So I'll just call upon, you know, His Excellency, the head of state, crack this whip. You have the power to do so. Crack it so that, you know, people who need to come be held accountable are actually held accountable, you know, and brought to book, and let Kenyans know who they are and where this money really went to. A development partner such as Global Fund, this is actually an embarrassment, you know, to us as a people, to us as a country. If Global Fund says we are going to withhold back, you know, additional support to you, and several other development partners will follow suit, and then what happens to us? What happens, you know, to Wanjiku? So for me, I behoove, you know, the head of state and all the apparatus concerned that, you know, for once, let's see some action and some tangible action, not just for the sake of action, but for the sake really of saying that we are going to use this an example of to any other person who thinks about, you know, conducting a corrupt deal or anything that touches on integrity of the person and also integrity of systems and of us as a people. Okay,
Honorable Tandaza, $14.2 billion pledges from the global funds, and probably set to come in handy to help the lives of about 16 million Kenyans. I mean, if we are to lose this just because we do not have answers for KEMSA, what more? What more, honestly? And when we're looking at the aspect of grants, in as much as we know they always come along with some conditions, does it have to get this dire?
No, it's, remember, these funds, which we call global funds, it's not money that is just printed to help people. This is money which essentially came from some taxpayers somewhere.
Okay, somewhere.
It is from an economy just like ours somewhere. And to me, they have every right to make sure that that money is spent well. I don't think that is a condition, that I'm giving you money and then I have to tell you that if I tell you don't steal it, then it becomes a condition because you want to steal that money, because essentially that's what you are saying. Okay. Yeah, that one of the conditions we are given is that we should not steal their money and they are being unfair to us.
Okay. Yeah, well, interesting. No, I'm just trying to look at the bigger picture. And IMF also the other day, they said, you know, no more rise for civil servants, what, and all these things.
Yeah, you see, they were speaking the truth. That's true. Because even if we are to say that, okay, we are going to double our salaries, fine. But where are we going to get that money? We are just from passing the budget where we are talking of 3-point-something trillion. But we know that is a lie. We don't have that money, you see. We don't have that money. We soon will be struggling just to deal with the recurrent expenditure, not even development. And yet we are talking of we are going to do this, we are going to do this from where? Linda, it's very simple. Kama una kitambara cha mita moja, tengeneza kajimini skirt. Because huwezi kutengeneza joho refu na kitambara. That is where we are, and we have to face it. So we've put ourselves into a position where we are an embarrassment to ourselves. Despite all the resources, despite all the manpower, despite all the technical knowledge that we have in this country, we put ourselves into the position. Why? Corruption. And Mheshimiwa Gakuya here put it correctly, and Madam here also put it correctly. Where I don't agree with Mheshimiwa Gakuya is when now he does what he does best, being a politician, saying that when the deputy left the government, when did he leave the government? Is it still the deputy president, unless he has another one whom I don't know. So we cannot say corruption started when the deputy left the government. He's the deputy. We know about the inner circle. We know about the president and his deputy Jubilee government. As we sit here, in NC, we are not in government. She is in Kanu, she is not in government. Jubilee is in government with a president and a deputy. They don't have any issues in court where one is supposed to be sworn in or not, like the Nairobi government. So let's not politicize serious issues when it comes to matters corruption. Corruption has been there. Not even, I think it only became a little bit better with the previous regime, Mwai Kibaki, and everybody felt it that time, irrespective of his tribe, irrespective of his hedge, everything. People felt that the economy was functioning. But immediately the Jubilee government came in, and now we've had an excuse. We talk about the pandemic. It's like we were doing better before the pandemic. We talk about somebody leaving the government. Now it's like we were doing better before that. Let's face it. Our problem is we have reached a point where we literally budget for corruption. We know that this cap essentially should be probably 100 shillings, but we put it at 1,100. And even up to last week, I think we were reading such issues where a brick, ile tofali ya mchanga, which is normally, everybody knows it cannot go beyond 10 shillings, probably 15, but somebody is procuring that one at 110, and nothing will happen. Because that is the problem. The pace has been set before that the more you steal, in fact, the more heroic, the more known, the more famous you become. That is a trend which I think, let's hope for the next government, whichever will come in, that it will tackle it head on. That is the problem. It needs the top. I agree. It is just starts from the top. Samaki anaozea kwanzia wapi? Kwenye kichwa. It starts from there. So, and with 1 year remaining, my prayer, bated breath is, and this one, I put it to the Kenyan people now. If we continue voting with our emotions, mtu wetu, huyu ndiye ana pesa nyingi, okay, so and so ni mzuri, lakini hana pesa, where does he get that money? You see, as a person, as an individual, because he's not in government, he's just a person like you, he wants to assist you. So if we continue with that trend, Linda, it's going to be very sad. Nafikiri kuna mwingine Lamu, last time, I think it was even in the clip, saying, hii Kenya itafika wakati izanywe, kuzanywa ni kuuza. Hii Kenya izanywe, tutachukua kipande yake, sijui atende ndio wapi, and will buy something which is in receivership. That will be the problem again.
Mwingine akasema kwanza hata wanaogopa kulala, manake unaweza ukalala ukaamka watu walishazanywa, sijui watu walikuwa sijui. So, I think, and we are laughing it off, but it's a serious matter. That's true. It's a serious matter. It's painful, but the blame lies on both of us. The Kenyan voter, it's high time now, with the level of education that we have, I think the middle class lets us down. It doesn't vote, actually. So it leaves it to the Wanjiku, the ordinary person, who actually does not know what he or she is voting for. That is the problem. Civic so if the middle really class comes in, the young population, the 4 million voters, which Bukati talked about, I believe these are those who are certainly have gone beyond for 4 and colleges and universities. These are the 4 million. If they come in, I'm sure these are people who can actually change the leadership, the direction of the leadership of this upon country. Enlightenment, that of course, and civic education. Mheshimiwa, before I... Okay.
Rinda, at this particular point in time, do you want to declare that, in fact, our organs or our agencies are dead?
They're not.
And they cannot be able to work as postulated by the Constitution. It means that what are we missing? Because we must be missing something. We may tomorrow have the best leader that we have never had. but he will be facing also handles to implement. Because probably he will just come, find the Akina Gakuyas and his team who are not ready to undertake the changes.
You fire them. Fire them and bring in new people.
You know what they say? They live in traces. They live in malls. I don't know whether you've read the newspaper sometimes back, where it spoke of within the cabinet, there are malls of the deputy president. Then you do not really understand. And therefore that means somehow anything that the president would want to do is, his hands is, are tied. Technically, a polite way of saying that hata mtu kama ako nje ya serikali, what they work for when they are in government is to instill individuals that will take care of, and probably that's what many say.
CSS are nominees of the president.
I agree.
Yeah. So at what point do you feel that you cannot act on somebody? I'm a businessman and I've had my company. Could be having an accountant, a manager, whatever, and they could be my friends. But if I say that these people are going to bring my company down, surely, do I keep keeping them in there because for some strange reasons that I'm related to his or her aunt, or that should not be the case. A good executive, and that's why I'm saying, samaki problem ni ile kichwa. A good executive will crack the whip no matter.
So President Uhuru Kenyatta has no goodwill. Now that we say that we say it's about the executive, President Uhuru Kenyatta, do you suppose he has the goodwill to deal with matters graft? I mean, it's not the first time that we're having this mentioned.
And considering that he is the public, saying very clear that in fact he is aware over 2 billion is getting lost every day
on a daily basis.
Then what has failed him to unearth those Spaniards?
All right.
Again, it's back to even the example within the family. You're the head of your family. If your family members go, berserk, it behooves you, to crack it, and read the riot act. So again, it's back to, like I said earlier, it's a complicated web, of transactions. It's a complicated web of people, people who are powerful people. But I don't think there's anyone who's more powerful than a head of state. Kenyans gave you the mandate, to protect our interests, to protect our resources, and so that we can get value, for the taxes that we pay. Kenyans have done their part, and their part is to pay taxes. So at the end of the road, what Kenyans are asking back for is just give us services. And I want to agree with Mheshimiwa here when he says that perhaps the war against graft then should be taken back to the people. Let the young people come up, let the youth come up, let the women come up, let everyone just come up and say, hey, pause. You, our MCA, pause. You, our CEC, for what? Pause. You, our MP, governor, chill. And these are the terms of the things that we want you to address, and we want to address them, with evidence. If we actually start doing that, then we are going to see people saying that, hey, wajinga waliisha Kenya. There are no more wajingas actually. But where is the role of the apparatus that are supposed to, ensure that the taxpayers' money is protected?
Well, Honorable Tandaza, back to you. It appears that the war on graft in the country is more of a targeted war, is more of a war that targets on certain individuals. I do not know what you make of the utterances that we saw over the weekend. Deputy President William Ruto, responding to Right Honorable Raila Odinga, who spoke of a scenario where when he gets to power come 2022, he will crack the whip heavy on these individuals that will have been named on matters graft. Well, probably just pinpointing scenarios that we've seen, probably, as though it appeared like he was pointing a finger at the DP. Though he did not mention names, the DP also came in response to that. And the question was, why do you respond yet your name has not been mentioned? Are you guilty? Does it appear like it is so? And looking at maybe just a reference as to what it is that has been captured in the People Daily, this is not the first time that we're having this case here. We also had the same this week, but it is in regards to the graft cases on Rigathi Gachagua. Again, a crackdown targeted at allies of the Deputy President William Ruto and himself.
Well, Kiswahili watu nasema, mtu akiwa na kidondo ukisema tu kuna harufu, hata pengine unazungumzia ni harufu ya pilau, hata fikiria tu ni ile harufu ya kidonda. Pengine hata unasikia tu harufu ya chips mahali, lakini hata fikiria tu ni kidonda. So I think I'll just go back to the basics. we are corrupt. There could be one or two like Tandaza who is not, but basically the Kenyan people are corrupt. That's where the problem is. And well,
morals of collapse, maybe.
Yeah, where did it start? Maybe that's what we would go on. And I think
are you branding all of us as Kenyans?
At least you say there are a few who are not.
Yeah, there could be a few. There could be a few. But you know, when you even condone corruption or you turn a blind eye, and I'm talking to the voter here, where probably he knows Tandaza business yake ni hii. This is the match he can actually get.
Yeah.
But now he comes with all sorts of fancy things and monies and wherever, and you take that person as a hero, then you are also corrupt.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying we are all guilty as charged. But we cannot start from the bottom, the ordinary mwananchi there, because his powers. That's why we put all the blame, and think all here we agree that the problem is from the top. Now, when it comes to targeting, to me, that is also a wrong move.
Okay.
Yeah, because now we are politicizing the war on corruption, and when we politic, then everybody politics. I think we normally say it, the moment you target, then people go back to their regions and their people and say, we are targeted. Now, we've had somebody, probably he is, but as Mheshimiwa Gakuya says is aligned to a particular person, then he says, I'm targeted because of this. But the question is, can he explain outside being aligned to a particular person that, look, the 42 billion you are talking about is, I did this business, I banked this money, these are my invoices. You know, I would clear myself that way instead of just say, I'm targeted because of ABCD. And that is where the problem is. And unfortunately now the other bit is, even after that expose, nothing happens. You know, that is the sad story now. That brings up to the issue of targeting. Because we've had these issues where somebody is held in court. You initially were discussing about the initial days of Haji and Kinot and whatever, where we had the Black Friday?
Yes.
Or Kamata Friday.
Yeah.
But all those cases up to now have not been concluded.
Okay.
You see. And that's why we now actually losing faith into these agencies, which is very sad. Because if a nation loses faith on its government agencies, which are supposed to be taking care of them, then that is recipe for anarchy, Linda. And that is the problem. But to me, politicizing or not politicizing, if the Right Honorable Raila has an idea that so and so is corrupt, and as a good Kenyan citizen,
he doesn't have to wait until
he doesn't have to wait until 2022.
That's true.
You see, he doesn't. And remember, he was prime minister.
That's true.
For 5 years. Was corruption any better then?
Probably not.
Not probably.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
Let's face it. That's true. Let's face it.
It was better in the essence that it was more.
How many people did he take to court? How many people did he jail?
And this is,
you see, some of, if we are to be honest, some of his ministers who are on his wing, the handshake wing, we know they were just as corrupt as any other person, and nothing happened. So that is where the problem. That we can only now rely on the next generation, the middle class and the young turks, to actually salvage this country. Otherwise, if we continue hoping that Mheshimiwa Gakuya here and my likes and the other leaders will actually come up with a leader, because we are actually affiliated to our ethnic persuasions for some reason or another, probably to an individual, without even scrutinizing the character of also that individual.
All right, and the numerous times you see...
Just a minute. And this is a matter towards the former Prime Minister's promise that actually he will deal with this particular matter of corruption once he takes over. And I am just asking myself, that when he was the Prime Minister then, issues to do with KKV were under his docket, and actually they got out of place. And since then, we have not heard about it. He has never been unable to respond to Kenyans on whereabouts of that particular kitty. We have issues to do with the other molasses on the Rift region. Is a matter that has never become clear. During his tenure, also there were issues to do with maize, and therefore issues of corruption are not from yesterday, and he was inside the government then. He could do anything. He said today that he has now he has now been reborn.
Be careful.
That today he will be able to lead that fight of corruption.
Be careful that in the same breath we do not fire shots at you or at the fact that you support Deputy President William Ruto, who's in government today, and accusing the same government for not doing much for the common mwananchi.
That's the problem.
And the very same person is the one that you're selling to us, so that come 2022, we'd have the same individual and trust that is going to do something different. Before you respond to that, let's come to Betty. And Betty, as you also give us your view on the same, why should we spend so much in half-baked processes? Why should we instigate conversations of investigations of trying to find out issues to do with corruption, only to leave them half-baked?
Personally, I think that that's actually the plan. The plan is steal so much, steal as much, so that you have enough left to stall, the investigation and the process and the court process and so on.
Okay.
And we know that there are cases sitting in our court today that are over 20 years old, corruption related. In fact, some of the people who are accused have retired, have become old and senile, some have even died, and those are cases that have never been resolved. There has been the drive, of regaining back, the monies that have been stolen and putting it back to the treasury. At the extent to which that has been successful is actually a matter that is of interest for us all. But I wanted to say this, Linda, let's go back to the basics. Corruption per se is a value issue. Thou shalt not steal.
That's true.
Thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt not do that. And we raise our children with that particular value. But the narrative now has become such that, the thieves, allow me to use that word, are so glorified, and they also come out and say, Heri mimi, I steal, but I give it back to you.
Okay.
Heri mimi, I steal, and I'm billing churches. Heri mimi, you can see what I'm doing with the money I am stealing.
Okay.
And the sad thing is us, the citizenry, go like, yeah, that's our guy.
That's true.
Question is, first of all, someone is stealing from you to give back to you. And that is what we need to unpack to our children, unpack, to our young people, unpack, to us women, so that we are asking the right questions. Where did you get it? Ndio unipe. You can give me 100 bob, 200 bob, it's okay. But where did you really get it?
Yeah.
So if we start asking these questions and stop glorifying and normalizing, corruption, then of course we will continue to see, the laissez-faire approach insofar as dealing with corruption and corrupt, individuals and corruption cases in this country.
Let me read some response.
The good must start from the top.
Yes. Because
there is no way the bottom can be able to accept this particular route if the top has not taken the trend.
Do you still feel like this is a target on allies to Deputy President William Ruto?
I can tell you for sure, one must give facts to the people of Kenya. Tell us, because it is not a crime to have worked for 12 billion if you have done those projects to completion. We need to see how are the projects awarded. Was it the legal process? Did you earn your projects legally? If you earn them legally, to earn money is not a crime.
Okay.
What matters is the route you have earned the money from. If you can justify, I tendered this, I won officially, and I have taken this particular route, you are paid after working. There's nothing crime there.
Okay.
So we need that clarity.
All right.
Yes.
Let's get some feedback.
Before we start tainting people with no facts.
We need to get the clarity. All right, let's pick some feedback. Lewis Brown Madenge, good morning. Linda, tuned in from Nyeri. Barry Othiambo says, Linda, unfortunately, we don't have a country anymore. Bad leadership from the time of Jomo to date has reduced us to just a bunch of people tossed left and right. A country of dishonesty and insecurity is what we are today. Only God will help Wanjiku that is now perishing for lack of knowledge. Kennedy Wasonga is watching from Ukunda, says greetings to Honorable Tandaza. And Shunza Gitali says President Uhuru keeps playing PR with matters corruption. KEMSA scandal should not be let go. Now, the president is not fighting corruption. Instead, he is engaged in selective justice. The Ministry of Health has been turned into a cash cow by people well known to Kenyans. We need to stop saying that the president is anti-corruption, and not when he presides over a government that loses about 2 billion daily to its corrupt officials, as he asserts that he is in charge and in control of the government. Still on the goodwill as we close, are we genuine at all, Honorable Tandaza, we close on matters corruption? And just looking at the fact that we see people saying that so-and-so has engaged on matters corruption, so-and-so, with so much confidence, why is it that the government is not taking up this?
We are not. And I've said this, and I'll continue saying this. We are not, right from all the three arms of the government, by the way, because the government deals with three arms. The legislature, I would put the legislature a little bit better, because it actually investigates, exposes, it does its investigation in the open, it recommends, and it stops there. And I think this is where the majority of Kenyans actually failed to know the extent of the powers, what the parliament can do. Yeah. The moment any committee investigates, comes with a report, it can only recommend. Now, it recommends to the different government agencies, which normally do not act, because, as I think we put it clearly, already they know. As we investigate, they are the architects of that graft. So there's nothing new you are telling them to say, oh, so now this is what happened. They already know, but for some reason they didn't want to do it. There's a case which keeps haunting me, and I put this into the judiciary, where a corruption case was well prosecuted in court, to a point where an officer, I think this officer was in the Ministry of Education, proven that he actually stole about 10 million shillings. 10 million shillings. We are not talking about billions. But what did the court do in this particular case? They actually gave him a jail term or an alternative fine of 500,000 shillings. And it has been proved now that this money went, he stole this money. A case which has been proved in court. And the judge says, the prosecution has proved this case beyond reasonable doubt. Now, a jail term or a fine of 500, and it has been proven that he stole it. So,
and recovery of the state
he didn't talk about recovery.
Yes.
He didn't talk about recovery for this particular case.
Okay.
If you want the details, I think it is also in your archives. You can always. So it really pains that even where something seems to have been done, somebody somewhere thinks otherwise. You know. So the executive, the judiciary, they are well immersed in matters. They are the architects, let me put it. They encourage. And for that matter, well,
as good as
we thought prayers will do with the head of AFC being Wabukala. Wabukala is a bishop, not a Christian, whatever title he has. But it has, to this extent, has even
it has become worse.
That
for a moment, there are conversations that maybe we should disband.
It doesn't work. The chairman of the BSCC is a retired bishop.
That's true. They say that we should disband the ESCC.
But sure, as we conclude this particular debate, do you want to conclude by saying that in fact Kenya is in a particular mercy, and we cannot find any single of our own who can lead this particular battle unless probably we wait for a miracle or an angel?
We keep hope alive.
We can deal with it. But it's about those presidential hopefuls and looking at who is less corrupt, because I wouldn't say who is not corrupt at all, because could be having relatives and whatever. But putting those who are now going for the 22 presidential vote, and Mheshimiwa Gakuya knows very well that probably Musalia could be the less tainted amongst those.
We're coming to that.
But for some reasons, he might now advocate for someone else when he knows that with all the headlines around here,
the lesser evil is.
Yes, and that's why we say we're not serious on matters corruption, even us as leaders.
All right.
The other day, there was this police officer in Nakuru, whose house help took off with like $1 million bucks, right? And Kenyans really celebrated, the house help as a hero. Yet we are celebrating a thief, technically speaking. But here's my point. The speed with which the apparatus moved in this case Within a day, within 2 days, you're seeing traction, you're seeing action, you're seeing arrest, you're seeing drama, you know, and you feel that, so these apparatus, you know,
are in existence here.
But my point is, are they only in existence for such cases, or should they be in existence for all matters corruption or all cases or allegations of corruption?
Okay.
So my view is that it's possible. No, it's possible to move with speed. It's possible to move, you know, to cause traction and get Kenyans to see that justice is actually done, not just to be seen to be done, but to actually be done. So again, back to the call of, you know, action upon all our leaders to fix this.
All right, we wait to see. And now that you speak of NASA, on that one, on draft.
I still want to urge our corruption fighters, the institutions that are given money by the Constitution, just to wake up, because surely we are at their mercy. And I wonder, why do you want to do what we call show-offs in the matter of fighting with corruption? I have seen and witnessed many arrests in this particular city with a tone of maybe that number of vehicles only going for a single person and coming hooting all the way, a clear drama. And I am asking myself, really, is this a route to go? You know, it's better that currently Kinuti has toned down in that particular procedure, and probably he's using other better mechanisms that are not dramatic kind of. And surely Kinuti and your team, really, Kenya's at your mercy.
Okay, well, we wait to see. If it was dramatic and we get results, it would be a good thing still. But now it's dramatic and there's zero results at the end of the day. Now that you speak of ANC leader, I'm coming back with this story and the conversation on succession politics and the fact that Right Honorable Raila Odinga now says crocodile inaweza tokea juu. Hiyo sijakula hata unataka nikufe kabla ni. I don't like it. I don't. Miss Kai na hipo ikitokelezea ivuruche simu yangu. No, ni sawa. Those who know me will tell you I'm not a lover of large volumes of water. But for you, we rove the different parts of the country and beyond just to make sure that we bring you the experience. We educate you, we entertain you, and we inform you.
That it's not political and it can do something.
As we sail the boat of Morning Cafe to enlighten you, entertain you, and inform you every Monday to Friday, only on TV 47.
Woo. Construction can be quite a task, but how do you move from finding your piece of land, sourcing the right materials, getting the right labor force to put up your building? Or better yet, how do you source for a building that's already built?
Just a small size of land can suit just a big maisonette because you are going high.
How do you ensure you get the right finishes to bring out the aesthetic value of your property and make it not only look good, but also feel good?
The buyers in this area are the buyers who are able to pay cash.
Well, we have it right here on The Realtor on TV 47. Where we demystify building right here in Kenya and analyze the property industry for you to take advantage when acquiring your next piece of property.
Every February, we hear men joking about going to a men's conference on Valentine's Day. We laugh about it, the lucky ones end up having a decent Valentine's Day, and we move on. But what we do not know is that men actually do meet up. Men do sit down and have conversations about things that affect their day-to-day life.
Let me ask, does money make the man?
Give them the gifts, shower them with everything you want to shower them with, but keep your money to yourself.
I, for one, have always been curious as to what goes on in a man's mind, specifically an alpha male's mind.
Adam, yule kwa Biblia anasema ni mtu wa kwanza duniani. Wewe unadhani
Untold Stories.
Still with me, Honorable Kasim Tendaza on my father's left, and we have Betty Adera somewhere in the center, still on my father's left, so to speak. And we also have Honorable Gakuya Jimmy with us also, who's right next to me. And to whether Mudavadi is the lesser evil or not is debatable. Gakuya would be supporting a different individual. Same applies to Betty Adera, who would probably look at Gideon Moi as now that one person who probably has zero evil. I do not know. And therefore, it will be hard to convince them that genuinely Mudavadi is the one that is way better. And is that really what we want as a people? That we want someone who's just at least is somewhere there. Yes, there's some dots in their life, but then he's just somewhere there, better than any other. Are we trying to use that narrative, that Kiswahili saying that speaks of, kila kilichochema kikosi dosari? And yesterday, Governor of Mombasa County appeared before the Senate, and he decided that he's going to answer to them in Swahili, 100%. And they all felt, a majority of them felt like he was in a mission to confuse them more, so that he does
Swahili
not.
is a national language. We're even in the process of translating our standing orders in Parliament into Kiswahili. And from the ESC community, we've agreed that that's the language that we are going to promote. So kudos for that.
Can you speak Kiswahili tu vizuri hivi?
Hakuna Mkenya ambaye haelewi Kiswahili, by the way.
Good.
Not as fluent as Coast.
Not as fluent as Tanzania.
Yeah, hakuna Mkenya ambaye haelewi Kiswahili.
That's true. That's true.
In fact, you can go to the farthest part of this country, and some of us who have had that opportunity in our previous lives have been a contractor, so to speak. So anybody can question the source of the little money that I have. You go to Turkana and you think, well, hapa sasa, how am I going to get my way? You see. And you ask any old lady, somehow atakwambia, okay, as Mheshimiwa Gakuya puts it, not as fluently or not as sequentially, but somehow you'll communicate. Atakwambia, kama ni uko, rudi hivi.
That's true.
That's the beauty about Kenya. Any Kenyan, and of course it brings into the question of those workers. We sometimes go into shops and you find somebody working in a shop and they cannot communicate in Kiswahili and anasema ni Mkenya. To me, that is an outright lie. Whether ni Muhindi, ni Msomali, ni nani, whoever is born in Kenya somehow comes to
Swahili.
So back to Linda, to what you had asked. Well, I think it is in the Bible. I cannot cite a verse in the Quran which outrightly said, for we have all sinned before. Nyinyi wa Kristo, kuna verse kama hiyo kwamba everybody has fallen short of the glory of God.
Right.
So to speak, I will not really say there is somebody on earth here who is 100% clean. I think that's where we need to start from. But some are just worse, they're outright thieves, you know them. Hata kwa kijiji unajua tu fulani akipita, kama kulikuwa kuna kijikuku chako na hukioni, basi outright ni fulani ameenda nacho. Maybe ni mwewe, but for now unajua tu vile fulani amepita, it must be the one. So that is the position we are in.
But it's one thing to be at that level, but it's another to be capable of dealing with matters graft once you ascend into power. So Mudavadi could be.
I think for this matter, he is up to the task, because one, he starts by talking about the economy. Yeah, and I think this one is a fact that we cannot hide from. He starts by talking about the economy, and if you start talking about the economy, really, you know this economy is basically where it is because of matters graft. We cannot run away from that. So until he is given a chance and proves otherwise, but so far, I think to any Kenyan who analyzes issues, policies, not rhetoric, not ethnic persuasions, not politics, the way we do it per se, he's been very spot on matters graft, matters economy, and economy you can only take it out when you actually tackle graft.
His approach has somehow been questioned a couple of times based on the policies and the proposals that he would be fronting in terms of how best we put the economy, to at least a stable place. Why should we buy into his ways, his utterances and everything? And again, it's one thing to speak passionately, it's another.
But he has a track record, Linda.
Okay.
He has a track record, Linda. Remember, this is the same person who came into the government during the golden bag issue.
That's true.
And I think the golden bag issue, if I'm not mistaken, it is the biggest scandal to have ever happened in this country. I think it opened the Pandora's box on how much one can actually steal, and Kenya moves on. And if we are to go into those cases, He's the one who stopped it. He's the one who actually renegotiated all the issues. You know, we had reached a point where, like now, where we're heading to, that IMF questions everything because you are misbehaving, we are stealing our own money. We were at that point when nobody wanted to do business with Kenya. You see, because we knew everybody will know, hata ukikwambia nikopeshe nitakulipa kesho, you can't pay because there are no means that you can pay. And it's the person who came in at that time and changed the situation. So he has a proven record when it comes to matters economy. And even coming out of that, there's never been any scandal going his way. People sometimes would want to throw spanners into the works, and they will always look for something if they want to. But not to the extent that one would actually see, hata kama hajapelekwa kotini, but for sure, this one amechukua. So there is that track record. He is spot on matters corruption. He is spot on matters graft. And I think that is the kind of leadership that you have. And this is where now I appeal to the Kenyan voter. But I know where the Kenyan voter now falls short. Because actually democracy assumes that somebody is voting on the same page on the matters that he's supposed to vote. But in our Kenyan situation, the real voter is not the middle class. The real voter is not those who go to school. The real voter are the people down there who actually have no idea.
Campaign for a particular
It's all right. I'm going to allow you to campaign for your candidate. Don't worry. And I know you will campaign hugely and counter that because you have the bottoms-up approach, right? Betty, kindly campaign for Gideon Moi. Now that we are speaking of the One Kenya Alliance, who is going to carry the day anyway?
Yes. Thank you very much, Linda. Interesting conversation. Well, for me as a Kenyan and as a Kenyan woman, I would wish to see a fresh face in the presidential team.
Just how fresh is fresh?
Very fresh.
Okay.
Yeah, very fresh.
Are you rooting out your party leader?
No. I'm coming there. That's why I'm saying fresh.
I don't know whether he's fresh.
At the presidential level.
Is Gideon Moi fresh, Honorable Tandaza?
Yes, at the presidential level, in that sense.
All right. He's never vied.
He's never vied at presidential level.
All right.
That's what I mean. And we need a fresh face. We need fresh insights. We need people who are above board when it comes to matters integrity. And my party leader, Gideon Moi, has never been, accused of anything, even as, Baringo senator and throughout his journey, political journey to date. Being a son of a former president does not reduce his rights, as a Kenyan citizen to want to vie and to want to occupy even higher, political offices.
Right.
At the Senate right now, my party leader is one of the strongest voices.
Is it so? Did you see the report that was released the other day?
I'm coming to that.
He barely speaks in Parliament. He's not uttered a single word.
What is the role of a senator?
Okay.
What is the role of a senator?
All right.
And how do senators conduct businesses in the House?
Okay.
Senators conduct business in the House committees. It's not about yapping, who is shouting the loudest for media to see, for their political masters, to see. But it's about how effective are you, in the committees that you represent.
Okay.
Now, Senator Gideon Moi is currently the chair of the Energy and ICT committees, and he has championed 5 bills. Tell me who has that kind of record in the Senate. There's the local content bill, there's the Information Act bill, there's the outdoor bill, there's the private data protection bill, remember the IBC issue, and there's the National Cereals and Produce bill that he has spearheaded, some of which have passed, some of which are still ongoing, and he is on record as among the senators who have stood firmly on allocation of funds, to the counties where the Mwananchi really is. So he's not the type who will come and yap, but he's the type who, where it matters most, where his role is needed most, he's actually at the top. In 2017, he was voted the most progressive senator in Kenya by an international lobby group. And those are things we don't take for granted. Now, coming back to his capability, to lead the country, to be CEO of Kenya, what does he lack? In terms of education and training, his background is economics. He has a vast wealth of knowledge around business, and he would bring back, leadership that is led from a management, point of view.
The likes of Gakuya will tell you that he's a dynasty.
Even if he's a dynasty, what is a dynasty?
Okay.
What is the definition of a dynasty? And is it a crime
to
be son of, a former president? Is it a crime? It's not a crime. The Constitution provides rights for all Kenyans, regardless of how you want to call them. As long as you are a Kenyan born and bred here, you are just as covered by the Constitution, just like everyone else.
Okay, interesting. And Honorable Gakuya, I know you are not going to vouch for your party leader because outright he's rooted out by the Constitution, his second term, and therefore his last term. So who are you vouching
for? By not vouching for his party leader, he's actually going against the Political Parties Act. Let me remind him, and we are on air. So I don't know how he's going to navigate that.
That's why I asked him, who would he campaign for?
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting with a bated breath. Okay. Continue, Gakuya.
Well, first and foremost, Reader, I urge you to protect me in this matter. Because I'm sure that Tadaza
is out here too.
I'm waiting.
Okay.
I'm waiting.
In short, Reader, it is very clear that all of us, we live in Kenya. Kenya is our home. None of us lives from the universe. So we all understand the type of leaders that are offering themselves in the coming 2022 general election. And going to the list that actually is obvious, is only Wanjigi, whom I cannot sit here to talk about.
Okay.
The rest has been politics and active politics, starting from Musalia Mudavadi, how he took over from his father, and up to the position he is. I want to say, to be very clear here, as my colleague want to say that actually Musalia Mudavadi is less tainted. When I was a member, a councillor in Nairobi City Council, he was my boss. And actually we lost over 270 million during his tenure. Okay. That money was money meant to buy for cemetery. And that cemetery is never done today. Yes, what was done was pure corruption, and a small shamba of 60 million was bought and allowed Mafoko here, which was not even worth for burial, and therefore it was condemned. And all this saga, actually Musalia only came out of this matter when he was cleared by the parliament. That is how he didn't get himself to the courts. That does not mean that he was clean in this particular matter. And that does not mean that he failed to see the light of the court because of anything else, but the protection was given by the corridors of parliament then. I would also want to state very clear that even his good friend Kalonzo Musyoka has an unsettled matter for a shamba that belongs to, purported to be belonging to what we call youth around Thika Road, Thika Matu. That matter is not settled. So taking to that particular recap, I will tell you, nobody has not been tainted. But I want to take this particular panel back to the Bible. We have somebody by the name Moses. Moses was given mandate by God to take the mantle of rescuing the children of Israel from Misri to Canaan. And don't forget that before Musa ran away from Egypt, he ran away to Naboth to take care of his goats there when he killed somebody.
Yeah.
So therefore, it does not mean that Moses was so holy, and that's why God picked him to lead the whole congregation from Misri to Canaan. But God made him, give him power and authority to do that. It does not mean even the kind of creep we are having today, we can still be having a Messiah here. Despite that each and everyone have some doubts, I am sure that tomorrow one can repent and can start preaching the colors of Damascus. And therefore I would say nobody can't change. Everybody can change because that's why you're a human being. And here we are saying that let us take ourselves back to universe and ask ourselves, where have the rain started raining on us? And what can we do as a nation so that we can kill this rise of corruption, which has tainted almost everybody in the whole Republic of Kenya. And therefore from there, we can walk afresh, all of us, and start a new direction. So in this particular case, we have said very clearly here, all the crops that we have on the table, they are Kenyans. let them go to what we call election field. Let everybody comply with the laws put by all the compliance set by the Constitution. After that compliance, let the public decide whom they think is better amongst them.
And therefore
after that, I will be comfortable being calling somebody my president.
Okay.
And
Linda,
I don't care whoever.
I have a point of order.
All right.
I have a point of order. And Mheshimiwa Gakuya, I don't think you are in order to mislead the audience that Parliament has powers to stop an investigation.
Okay.
I think this one you have to.
I can tell you for sure.
Even now, there isn't.
No,
and the two, on the matter that you referred, it was fully investigated and people ended in jail. Isn't this? This is one case where
he was vindicated.
It was no. Those were actually suspected for this particular case.
I know there are people to Hassans.
Which went.
The Hassans never die. The Hassans are ever alive.
Does Parliament have powers to stop?
The committee of the House excluded him from that particular.
No, but that doesn't stop the other agencies from because I know from where I sit and we are all parliamentarians. Parliament has no powers to stop a government agency from acting on a particular matter.
So if the agencies would have termed it right to proceed,
they should have
done that.
And
so
the criminal matter, by the way, doesn't die. They can even do it now if there is evidence.
But what
criminal
I can say,
issues don't die.
I want to attest very clear that there is a report in the House which cleared Musalia Mudavadi.
Yes. But did it stop from the other agency? Does Parliament have power to stop a government?
So that means
it doesn't.
It does not have power
to
stop other agencies.
Now you've corrected that in the need.
How other agencies
at least you
decided not to.
Yes.
It meant that maybe.
It means I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Betty.
What I believe is key here for all of us and all Kenyans, viewing is that we need to look at our leaders right from MCA. This person who wants to come to be an aspirant MCA all the way to the presidential level. Let us look at them with sobriety. Let's look at them without any emotion. Let's look at them just as Kenyans, not using gender lens. Let us not look at them through socioeconomic lens. Let's not look at them through ethnic lens. Let us just look at them as leaders and ask yourself that this person who comes to you begging for that your one vote. Remember, you only have one. Begging for that your one vote. If you put him or her on an integrity scale, how will that scale, tilt? And let us also not forget history. History is here to remind us, of the journey that we have come this far, and for us to use lessons learned, to reflect and move forward, as a people. But matters integrity are key, and fellow Kenyans, when they come to you, check the integrity card on each and every person. Let no one give you that tubob, that what, bring all the money to your churches, and then you're like, hey, we on the mutu wetu. Remember, some of the monies you're being given is actually your money. Someone took your own money as a taxpayer irregularly and is bringing it back to you. So I cannot overemphasize, that quality of integrity right from the presidential aspirants, coming all the way down.
It will be a bit tricky to even look at the card of integrity at a point in time where, Honorable Tandaza, we focus much on coalitions and alliances. And now that we speak about them, I think one factor that is really, really important is that when these individuals are coming together to form coalitions, then they need to set up memorandum of understandings that, look into the future. Because evidently we've seen that there are always vehicles to just take them through the election, and to the next side, it becomes a hula baloo, a Pandora's box for that matter. It's not been rosy for NASA in as much as there's no official communication that NASA is disbanded in any way. Now, Right Honorable Raila Odinga is listening to the other trio or the other principals, and they have some requests to make. Some of them say they won't support him anymore, and he says that he has some irreducible minimums in the event that he is to support any of them. One, he says he will only support whoever wins in a competitive nomination. Two, he says the joint primaries should be conducted by no less than the IEBC. Three, he says that his core principles should choose between universal suffrage and delegates system. My own is that we've seen that it has become hard even when it comes to the, sharing of the monies or the party funds and all that. honestly speaking, Betty, maybe you need to pick up on this, and probably as you sit down, you know, as a party, as KANU, you need to be very keen, especially on this conversation of coalitions, because it is all rosy at a point of formation and a point of winning elections, but when it comes to the next side, it appears it's never so friendly. And therefore, Honorable Tandaza, as you come in, if you're coming as a coalition, how do I even say that this is a president of integrity, and therefore I will overlook what my leader, Honorable Raila Odinga, has supported, or who he has supported, who my leader Musalia Mudavadi has supported or endorsed, and say that, you know what, he's not a person of integrity, and therefore I will not, because we are hugely affiliated to parties.
We are not actually affiliated to parties. We are affiliated to our ethnic.
Now that's also another
because
thing, yes.
If one is affiliated to parties, then we'll say, even if so-and-so leaves this party and moves to another party, I'll remain in this party because this is my party.
You see why I said
we
that?
follow leaders and we follow our ethnic.
Why I said that, Mheshimiwa, is because I know very well that you hail from a different place from Musalia Mudavadi. And therefore, I'd look at it as though it's an ANC affair and not a regional affair or an ethnic affair.
So that is true, but probably the where I will start with, let me start with one comment which I find it very interesting. When the right Honorable Raila Odinga talks about primaries conducted by IBC, I would ask which IBC? Yes. Because all along, he is one, for very good reasons, who has said IBC cannot conduct
the elections as confirmed.
They don't have the capacity. He wants it overhauled, but all of us, and I think that's where we have the leaders have problems in not exactly being systematic, not being steadfast on what message they want to send to the people. At one point, hii kikombe, because it favors me, ni kikombe. But if it doesn't favor me and it is the same kikombe, now anaanza kusema hii ni ya plastic ati na cause cancer here. And it is the same kikombe. That is the problem that you are having. But to me, Linda, the genesis of all this is that in our Kenyan politics, no political party or formation has ever won an election twice. I think some bit of history, just from the advent of the NAC government, 5 years there was no NAC. The TNA, URP, 5 years there was, and it's no wonder that come 2022, probably we are facing what we are facing. And it is the same with NASA. And to me, I wouldn't see that as a problem, because if you have a particular team, you've gone into a match, you've not won, you need some changes. You need some changes, isn't it? You cannot be doing the same thing the same way and expect a different result. Going forward, certainly I know from where I sit, there'll be new coalitions, there'll be new formations from whichever side. In fact, I've always maintained this: you cannot rule out anybody working from any person from that level, or any other persons coming in. Remember, of late we have been talking about our Speaker of the National Assembly also going for the president from Mount Kenya, and all along we are saying this time there will be nobody from Mount Kenya. Yes. But now something is coming up. So for as long as the window for political formations has not been closed, this will be open. Okay. But over and everything else, I think the bottom line here lies with the common voter, because he's the one who will employ these people. Okay. And the problem is when now the voter, as my sister here says, does not actually sieve the leaders. He goes back to vote on those ethnic affiliations and Mtuwetu. And leaders have taken advantage of that. And that is why the coalitions formed are based on how much you are going to bring in terms of your people.
Numbers,
in terms, not just numbers. Your people. Wewe, kwenu, mnakurangapi. Ndio sasa uje tuongee hapa, you know. So it's not about which ideas are you bringing onto this one, you know. It's about those numbers.
Kambani region, Kalonzo is coming with 1 million votes. All right, interesting.
That's where the problem is.
Betty, don't you think it would be a fair ground if today KANU, let's say One Kenya Alliance, would decide to work with Jubilee Party and decide to work with ODM Party? Don't you think it would only be fair that we speak of this conversation that Junet Mohammed speaks of? He says, if they want us to work together under whichever banner, and that speaks of a possibility of these entities or these parties working together, let's have a joint presidential nomination process to see who has the numbers. Don't you think that would be a fair ground? Because it has always been a delicate balance to pick who it is that is going to carry the flag. Remember how much NASA kept us waiting. as we were waiting for the flag bearer for years and years and years, because it was hard for them to decide.
Back to our politics and question around fair ground. Even if you look at the individual political parties, even just take the last general elections in 2017, were the primaries fair for the parties that actually did it? And I don't think it's within the mandate of IBC to meddle, in political party affairs. However, nonetheless, let's reflect and acknowledge the fact that political alliances around general elections are actually historical in Kenya. It's not the first time, it's not the last time, and perhaps it's a good thing, because in politics, let's not be cheated. It's about numbers. Bring in the numbers, because it's the numbers that are either going to make you cross over or stay where you are. So like we, in KANU, led by our KANU party leader, Senator Moi, we are out looking for other like-minded leaders that we could have conversations with, appreciating the fact that there's no single political party that can deliver a presidency in Kenya as we are currently structured. And we're looking at, who is this person who's out there, who can align with us, who can have like shared vision as we move into 2022. Who is this person whose vision reflects, with ours and with the history that we have had, as a party? Who is this person or bunch of people who, would have the same kind of, vision for young people, for women, for the economy, and for all these issues of national importance. But we are also... We
have to close,
we also need to reflect the fact that politics of coalitions have also been marred with deceit, with mistrust, and if we reflect on the comments by the other NASA, principals, they have felt cheated, by the ODM side, and we see all these things happening. So for us going into coalitions, we are still open to conversations, but our eyes and ears are very open to what is it that we want to get into, what is it that will really be actually written down and legally binding come 2022, regardless of the outcome.
In 30 seconds, close it for us.
If you can ask me, Rida has given these guys the softest deal. Because for sure, if you want to beat somebody, just beat him democratically. And the kind of examination or exam that they have given by Honorable Ida's team is quite simple. What these people should do, first and foremost, is to brief themselves. If they can also ask that actually they've been allowed to bring in equal delegates from every presidential bearer. They are almost four in number. So if that can be agreed, these people will just make sure that they unite in their internal, and they have a single candidate at the floor, and they will beat Raila on the floor with the number of delegates. But they are not trusting themselves.
So let's say Raila could be shooting himself.
And I can tell you, if they are wise enough, this is the best mock.
And all right, it's interesting way to look at it. Honorable Kasim, please make sure that you tell your leaders that, and probably it could be that time that Raila shoots himself in the foot, if at all you can believe in yourself, because we want leaders who believe in themselves. Kasim Sawa Tandaza, Member of Parliament Matuga, Betty Adera, National Chair, KANU Women Congress, and James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North. We close it at that. Asante sana.
Thank you.
We get to a different conversation altogether after this break. Matters relationships.
The home of untold stories.
Every daybreak comes